Welcome, everyone. It's good to have you back here, Arts Fam. This is, of course, Luis Antonio Pichardo, co host of the Art Block podcast. I'm joined this month, as usual, by my lovely co host, Abraham Jaramillo. Say what's up, Abraham.
Sup, sup.
And today we are honored to have one of our Poet Artist Development Program mentees, Carolyn Cardoza. Carolyn Cardoza is a multidisciplinary artist born and raised in the Inland Empire. Shout out to all the folks out there from my family in Riverside. With a passion for creating and supporting safe spaces for women and gender expansive youth, especially in the sphere of arts and music. Thank you for joining us today, Carolyn.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. And I kind of mentioned it, right? But you are one of our current mentees in the Poet Artist Development Program. And I would say this is probably, actually, this is one of the firsts where we had somebody before they were published by DSTL Arts joining our program. So
breaking rules already. Damn, Caroline.
Setting standards.
I'm honored.
Yeah. But I'm actually kind of curious. Like I said in the little intro with my interjection there, I have family in Riverside, specifically in Paris, Riverside County.
Wow, Paris. Oh, oui.
Yeah. I remember when I was in fifth grade, when we came back from summer vacation to start fifth grade, my fifth grade teacher asked everyone, "What did you do?" And me being the little boy that was all excited, I raised my hand and said, "I went to Paris to see my tia."
Oh.
The teacher thought I was talking about Paris, France. I was like, "No, Paris, Riverside."
You should have kept with the story what it was.
Man. Why?
I would just let her believe it. Yeah.
There's Mexicans in France too.
Yeah.
Who's making the bread?
Yeah. But anyways, I digress. But my question for you, Carolyn, to kind of kick us off is, whereabouts in the Inland Empire did you grow up, and how did that actually bring you to LA?
I have family in Riverside. So on my mom's side, they grew up in Riverside. My dad grew up near Redlands in San Bernardino, and then my parents met in Colton. So mostly in that general area of bouncing between Colton, Riverside, Grand Terrace, which is squeezed between there. I guess I didn't find my people while I was growing up, and I think that's queer people, gender expansive people. I think the communities that I surround myself with now today. So I think going to LA, going to Dodger games or going shopping on Melrose, my mom would take us out here to go shopping. I saw different walks of life here, and I was I think I'm gonna find my people here in LA. And maybe that's gender expansive people, maybe that's people who like to just dress differently, or I don't know. I was looking for that, and so that's what brought me out here. So I moved out right when I turned 18. I moved out of my parents' house. Me and my sister, we moved in together, still in that same area. But once I was able to pop out of that nest, then I came out to LA probably around 20. Yeah, half my life I've been living in LA.
Nice.
Interesting. I never heard of that before. Probably have hints of it. So would you think that small cities have less of that kind of gender differences because of population numbers? Or is it because cities attract more of the populations that are pro gender equality or different gender spectrum?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think obviously I think in any major city across the state or across different countries, you're going to get more walks of life. I think where I grew up, every little city was a pocket, and the transit system isn't, it's not that great here in LA, but it's definitely non-existent where I grew up. So finding that community was very hard. And I mean, I was born in the 80s, and so finding finding out about like my sexuality or my identity was kind of during a time where like it wasn't that accepted, and I think especially like in that area is very like closed-minded. So even like trying to find that community was a little more difficult than maybe it is today, because like I still have family that lives out there, and like my niece and nephew, they're older, they're 13 and 16, and they talk about queer kids in their school where it's like a little more open. So I was like, okay, so maybe things are changing for the better and there's more open-mindedness. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Interesting. It just like reminded me. I think I sent it to you a video of this photographer who was into the queer world as well. I think 1800s. I think like beginning of 1900s. I guess.
Mhm.
And I found it fascinating because like back in the days, like you get like stoned by people or really rejected by the generations that are living that time frame. But they were able to live a little longer with her partner because they were in the upper society, right? When you're able to spend your money as you want and you can be more secluded without the population having to critique you as much because they still have to face a lot of things, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how it has changed some of those things. So have you seen like from you say you just age yourself, sorry,
Mhm.
80s kid,
I
have
don't
you seen any
care.
difference in like these new kids that are coming up? Do you see any change of, especially in like sex orientation? I feel for this purpose, have you seen any changes on that regard?
I think, and it's probably because of the internet, it's more accessible for kids to kind of find things or like be exposed to things that identity is becoming like more fluid. It's not like, oh, I'm even like saying like, oh, I'm gay or I'm straight. Like even within that, it's just becoming more fluid. Um, it's hard to say because like I mean, I know I'm around kids because of like the organizations that I work with, but that's not really like the main focus. It's more about just creating the safe space for them just to explore their art or like learn an instrument or do something like that. So I'm not like too sure, but I feel like because of the internet, there's more accessibility to learning about these things.
Yeah, I feel like the community has been more acknowledges of themselves because like once there's more people who are thinking the same, it's easier for you to say, oh, I'm okay with this. And the thing is, I still see a lot of people struggling with the idea of sexuality, like especially parents or old school people. It's hard to get into new things, and it's so nice to catch up also, right? So I'm
Yeah.
seeing like these new kids are living in a different world than previous generations. Like again, all these new access and all these new communities that are provided by these also internet, apps that are able to like say, oh, this is gonna be this event here, this is gonna be this other event, and then like it's more wide than just like seeing a flyer on your neighborhood, right? Like,
Yeah. And that's what I think about like when I was growing up. It's like, okay, the internet was like barely starting, but it wasn't like what it is today, where you are gonna get like a flyer pop up or like you're gonna hear about a group of people or a festival is happening. Like that it that just didn't exist. Even like flyers posted around like that didn't exist either. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not to like stick with the topic for too long, to like say
That's
that.
all we're gonna talk about.
I mean, and I don't want it to be like the only thing that obviously we talk about because you're a person that is multidimensional. But I think that that specific experience that you're describing, it's a very important experience that we talk about because we have come a very long way. We've, as a society, come to understand that people are not always going to be like how they are assigned at birth ultimately, right? It's part of this larger culture war that we see happening right now in politics and everything. But the fact that you found community in LA and have decided to make this your home, I think that that's really important. And I think that the work that you're doing, not only through the organizations that you support and that you mentor with, But I think also in your own personal art practice and your work that you do with your partner. And I was wondering how much of the work that you do in your everyday life do you feel is because you're specifically focusing on maybe serving the LGBTQ community? Or is it really more that you just want, how should I put it, like all people to be able to benefit from the arts and music? Like, what is the impetus, I guess, is my question, for you to work in the communities that you're working in?
I think that I want it to be accessible for everyone. Um, I think even to work in the communities that I work with, I mean, it's about gender expansive youth, and it can have something to do with like my identity or sexuality, but it's also like empowering women too. And um, I think also it's not all gender expansive youth. It's like different walks of life within that community too. And it's maybe to show both sides, like, hey, this is a kid that identifies as like straight and they just want to learn how to play the guitar or something, but they're meeting someone who maybe they wouldn't have the chance to meet. And I think like bridging these things is important. Like, hey, you identify as this, and maybe that's like the quote unquote norm of what we would like see or like what we grew up with. But like, there's this person that exists over here. And I think that that's like important to, you have like empathy or you have an understanding of like how someone might want to live or identify as. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I think
think
it's
you know,
yeah.
and the answer is like whatever you want it to be, right? But I think
It's
what
my
I picked
answer.
up, yeah, right. But what I picked up on was actually the idea of being seen. That's, I think, more or less at the heart of what you were just saying. And I'm curious, when did you first feel seen? What was that moment, if you remember it?
I think that happens throughout life. I think even like for me to see myself, I think first and foremost, I think like at a young age, like knowing that I was a queer person, that was like me seeing myself and like having an acceptance for myself. And then I think maybe coming out to my parents and like them seeing me or like family members. Um, then going into like becoming in my 20s, like now moving into like this career of like doing music. I mean, I did music throughout my life, but like actually having it as a career and like that was like being seen on stage and like even accepting myself as an artist because like that's like so hard to do. I think, you have imposter syndrome and maybe someone might say, "Oh yeah, you're a musician," or like you played on the stage or you've done these things, and it's just like, ah, I don't see myself as that. Um, so that took some time. And now as like a photographer, that's another wave of like seeing myself and like being recognized. And I think even being a mentor at Las Fotos Project, being seen as a photographer there, being seen as an artist by you guys, like I think that there's just like these waves that happen of like being seen. But I think it always like starts with yourself, like seeing yourself and looking in the mirror and saying like, oh yeah, this is who I am.
Mhm. I love that sentiment.
Yeah, I see a lot of that same question that Luis asked of how do you like deal with like working with this type of group or this other type of group? Do you focus on that? But I think we sometimes get into a mode or organization that has an idea of who they want to serve. But in the deepest heart of ourselves, like it's like, oh, I want to help anybody who comes through the door, right? Like first time I went to Caroline's photo shoot, like okay, it's dedicated for women, but she's like invited me, and she definitely received me as anybody who will just come through the door. And I think that's our focus is like serving whoever wants to seek our help or wants to join us. And definitely we have a certain set of skills or background that we're more attached to, like culturally, sex oriented or skill levels that we have, and that's where we are more our comfort is. But definitely we want to help as many people as we can, right? And just because I wanted to, because I know you are two again. I know you do a lot of things, so you are like a Swiss Army knife of art. And so I know that you have all these different skills, and I know you do, or you have been part of this video making community, or you have make videos. Can you tell us, especially like I know you do music videos and things like that. Can you tell us the story behind the scenes of one of these videos?
Like the most recent music video?
Whichever it comes to mind, take for you whatever you feel like you want to talk about. Tell us a cool story.
I don't know if I mean, I guess what's on my mind is like the most recent music video, but like there's no cool story necessarily. I think it was like magical the way it all kind of came together. Like
magical is not cool, Carolyn. Come on, sell it.
I have to like really pitch it. Yes, someone had reached out, not just someone. His name is Elias Posada, and he reached out like a year ago, and like he's a director, and he wanted to work on a music video with my partner Irene. And at the time, we didn't have like music for a music video. It was kind of like we were in the process, and then my partner, she applied for a grant from the recording fund, and we were able to record a song. And it kind of just, I mean, what I mean by magical is like we had someone reach out that wanted to work with us and was just like, hey, I want to do this for you guys. And then she got the grant to record the song, and then we reached back to him and we're like, hey, we have the song now, like we're ready to go. And we had like a phone call, and just to kind of like talk about the song and get ideas down. And like, I guess I'm really good at like visualizing for music videos. He will admit that he didn't have like a vision for it. It was just like, oh, I like the song and I want to do something for it. But it was me and Irene who kind of like came up with this arc of a story, and it wasn't supposed to be like a love song necessarily. It was these different vignettes that like were popping into my mind that as we were like listening to the song over and over again, that I was just like seeing that we were going to see different relationships happening in this music video. And one was between a father and a daughter, where she picks up his guitar and she starts playing it, and then he's like, oh, like he sees like this, like, oh wow, you're interested in something that like I love. And like that's pretty much like a memory that Irene has like shared of her and her dad. And it's not supposed to be them, but it's just supposed to be this like, you know, you kind of hope that you have these moments with your kids where it's like, oh wow, they're interested in something that like I'm doing, like, oh, I'm cool, or like, let me show you what I know. And so that was like one thing. And then there's the two friends where like a car breaks down, and like I think we wanted to show that like men and women can be friends, and it doesn't have to be this like romantic relationship. And the fact that it's like a man calling to a woman to like, hey, I need help, like, can you come down? It's like we're wanting to just to like kind of show things that like maybe you wouldn't like normally see. And then at the end, it's the married couple, and that one has to do with like forgiveness. And like again, it's like not anything to do with like love or romance, like, oh yeah, we're so in love. It's like, no, it takes like work to be to be in a marriage. And like the biggest thing is, aside from like love, is forgiveness. So we wanted to depict that too. And yeah, just everything just came together magically, like just from the inception of it to like coming up with these ideas to shooting it.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw that video. It was pretty cool. And even told you, oh, I know the guy who's doing I think the breakdown car, right?
Yeah.
The one we went to the photo shoot with.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And yeah, it goes back to like what love means, right? Sometimes it takes different shapes. It can be a paternal, maternal love, a friendship love. And again, same thing is like a lot of people say, oh, you cannot be friends with the opposite sex. Like, no, it's just like it depends how you approach it, right?
Yeah.
You're approaching a different meaning. Yeah, of course you're gonna end up with the same results. But love definitely takes different shapes, right? Being there for your friends, being there for your kids, being there for like whoever you want to, even for animals, you think about it, right? Like that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and for our audio listeners, the music video that we're referring to is Anything for You by Irene
Yeah,
D.
that's right.
I definitely recommend that everybody go and check it out though. Because yeah, I watched the music video as well, and it's a really, I think, sweet song for sure. You know, the sentiment of the song I enjoyed. Irene's voice is also just great in general. But I think the visuals, right, the acts that are represented in the music video, they do speak to what I think everybody is saying right now, is in that love takes a lot of different shapes and, you know, a lot of different forms, and it's all about the actions and the intent behind the actions. So I
Mhm.
really appreciated that. And
Thank
it's cool to hear that the music video and even the song itself kind of came to be through, I don't want to say chance, but to me it's more like
Serendipitous.
you.
serendipity in the sense of like you worked to get to that point, right? We've had conversations like this before with other artists where if you show up for yourself, then things start to show up for you. When did you first start to see that happening in your arts practice? Because I actually saw one of your Tiny Desk performances from 10 years ago on the NPR YouTube channel. And, you know, for 10 years now, at least, right? You've been performing and creating. What moment in your life that you can remember did it start to click that the more you worked at it, the more these opportunities were going to show up for you?
I mean, I think I've always believed that no matter like what it is, it's like a dance with life. Um, I think if you show up for yourself, if you're, I mean, and that can go both ways. If you're going down a path that maybe isn't the best, then those things are going to pop up too, that are just going to continue that way. So I think it's just depending on like what it is that you're wanting for your life. So I think I've always had that like in the back of my head. As far as like my artistry now, I think that that pops up even like recently. I think even within the past like 2 years, where I was like, oh, I'm really like noticing something because I'm like getting more into photography like over the course of the past 5 years, that like I wanted a mentor for myself. And then I was working at Trader Joe's at the time that I like was kind of like thinking this. And there was this guy that would come in and like there's always like characters that come into the store that you kind of have conversation with. Like it's just the environment lends itself to having conversation with people and meeting people. So I've like met friends that I still have today. And this guy, he was like really cool and he would just kind of like chat me up, and but we never like really like delved into anything like deeper than just like, oh, how was your weekend or whatever. And then one day it just kind of like moved into that direction where like, what do you do? Or like, and he's like this Pulitzer Prize winning photographer. And it was just kind of like, okay, like I didn't even know who I was talking to. And he was one of the first people that I started sending my photos to for him to kind of like critique and give me some feedback, like even on the photos that I was taking of my grandma, like the very first photos that I was taking of her. That is for my chapbook that will be coming out soon, um, called Memory Care.
I love that.
Stay tuned for that.
Perfect little promo moment.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
So even like a moment like that was like leading me to like, okay, I'm going in the right direction, or life is responding to me because I'm moving in that direction. And then I think even meeting you guys, like I had applied for, and I think I told one of you this, or maybe both of you, that I was applying for like an artist grant or something. Like I was submitting my photos for an exhibit or something, but I had to use Submittable. And so then I went on Submittable and I was like, what is this platform? And then I started to kind of like dive in, and I started like looking for more opportunities for photography and to submit my photos. And like that's how I found you guys, was through that platform. But it would, if I hadn't thought to like apply for this other opportunity, then I wouldn't have like met you guys, and started going to the Tuesday classes. So it's just like these like little steps that just start to appear when again, like what you said, like show up for yourself. The first time I thought about this in my art, I don't know. I just think I've always had it in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's good when you follow through, you know, because sometimes we see like a little, I don't know, especially when we were young and maybe we are a little less careful and we just
Mhm.
left, like those chances fly away.
Yeah.
And sometimes we take a little bit charge and like, oh, let me go to this event, let me file these um, grant or opportunities that show up, and I think that kind of becomes a thing that even if that thing didn't materialize, sometimes if something else comes out of that specific opportunity, right? And it's good that you follow through. And just because you already mentioned it, I wanted to like make sure people in the audio and the video world that we're living in can know a little bit more of this chapbook that we've been working on for because I mean, who cares how long, how many years we have been going through this?
Yeah.
But can you give us a little bit elevator pitch on your book that's coming up? It's getting, it's almost there. I know it's baking, but almost out.
You want to pitch it?
Yeah, just give us a little taste of what is it about. What I mean, how does it come to be? Right, and maybe perhaps a couple of struggles that happened during the way of making this that's still going on.
My chapbook is titled Memory Care, and it started off as the relationship with my grandma, who was diagnosed with dementia. And again, it kind of goes back to that mentor that I had met at Trader Joe's. Because that was something that I was struggling with, was like trying to find something that I was like photographing that like meant something. Like, oh, I can go out and shoot street photography, which like I'm finding that that's like a therapy, and that's like a certain lane of the medium. But I think I was like, oh, I don't know what's important, or like I don't know what I'm trying to say, or like trying to find my voice. And like he kind of was asking me these questions that like led me to go and visit her. I hadn't like seen her in like years, because like that was like a fear that I was needing to overcome, and through photography was how I faced that fear. Um, that's backstory. So the pitch for my book is this relationship unfolding, and I think the struggle that has come up is maybe the narrative of it. It's like, okay, I can just showcase these photos of my grandma and every visit that I've had with her, but I think that there's like this arc from like not just like the memory of her in these like recent years of me visiting her, but also kind of like looking back at like the whole life that she's lived. So that's pretty much what like the book is about, like finding this arc and not it just being like this little time capsule of like the past couple of years. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see that one, come together and be published. And I think that it's really cool that you found, or maybe started to find, your voice not only in music but now also in photography. And we've had the conversation before about also your music videos and videography practice that you've kind of done, I think, in some capacities. But I'm sort of wondering about like, at what point did you feel like you needed to expand to other mediums? What was it that maybe led you to photography and the art of visual storytelling, as opposed to just sticking with only music?
Boredom. I'm kidding.
That's a very valid answer.
That's the greatest true answer I have heard in this podcast. Let's close shop.
I mean, maybe it's not true. I think because at the time when I picked up the camera like seriously, it was when the pandemic happened, and like we weren't doing music because like we couldn't go to do shows. So that's when I like really like dived into it. But I think I mean, I've always had an appreciation for art and music and visuals, like throughout my life. I would say that music kind of helped me like go into like the visual storytelling, because like my partner and I would be photographed or we would be doing videos. I was always in front of the camera, but I always was intrigued and interested in how everything worked behind the camera. It was just, it looked like a lot of fun. I liked the results, you know, when they would take a photo or like do a video of us. I was like, oh, wow, like you made me look really cool, or like, you know, I look great or whatever. It was like, oh, that's like interesting to me. I want to like dive into that and become like more involved in that medium.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think being photographed made me want to photograph people and like bring something out in them or like showcase them in a certain light.
That's really cool to hear. I find it interesting when I read stories about artists who end up practicing multiple forms of art in one form or another. Like myself, you know, I'm not just a poet, but I'm also a photographer and I practice graphic design. And, you know, I've done poetry. I've been paid for that. You know, I've been paid to be a graphic designer. I've been paid to be a photographer, but for me, photography and graphic design were the first ones that paid me, not poetry. And they were also the ones that I picked up more as a hobby at first. And then they ended up turning into something that was, you know, generating some revenue for me. But I've read stories of like other writers that are also painters, but never exhibit their work until usually the end of their life or after they've passed.
Mhm.
So it's interesting to hear that, you know, it might be partly true, right? Boredom led you to pick it up more. Um, but uh, but I find that really fascinating. And have you seen that sort of like experimentation, we'll call it, in other artists that you've interacted with? Have you met other people who now identify as multidisciplinary aside from us?
Yeah, I am seeing that. And I think maybe we're in that age of like needing to wear multiple hats in order to like get things done. Cause like, I think like my answer is like, oh, I enjoyed being photographed and I felt a call to that. But like, I'm also looking at it as like, oh, wow, this is coming in really handy for my business with my wife, that I'm photographing her to promote like the music. And it's kind of like this full circle, like, okay, wow, like this is coming in. It's not just like me experimenting with this medium or like expressing myself in a different way. It's you know, it's coming in handy. And I am there's one friend that I have, his name's Rudy Torres, and he has a band. He's a singer and a guitarist, and he's also a really great photographer and videographer. And music came first for him, but now it's like, oh wow, maybe music isn't making me so much money or whatever the case may be, but it's like, okay, I'm gonna go do this so it can support this, but it's also like coming in handy for my art over here. And I think that that's what it is we're just in an age where it's accessible to learn these different mediums and it comes in handy.
Yeah, I could definitely relate with that.
It's funny because like I listen to different podcasts throughout the day, and everything that I hear from the 1800s is like, oh, he was a barber, then the afternoon he's a doctor, and then later he's the lawyer and the and the city council. It's like, I don't know if we have moved that far of like multiple skills. I think we as humans, sometimes necessity pushes us to learn new skills or master new skills.
Right.
And also, I think it's a little bit of, I'm bored, I want to get to know something new, I have that kind of mentality. Like I was like, that's why I end up going to rabbit holes everywhere, like I'm done with this subject, let me focus into this other one now, because life has so many things to offer, and I think we sometimes don't want to stay in the same topic. We want to move on. And just with that statement, I wanted to ask you, what is the most comfortable chair that you like to go sit on in your house or your apartment or your living quarters? Same thing for you, Luis. We'll get back to you as well. Let's Caroline answer first. Chair or desk or couch or hammock? Which one you feel more comfortable on in your house?
There's not that many options. I guess it's the kitchen, at the kitchen table, the chairs there. My parents used to be antique dealers, and they would, go to estate sales, and they would like flip things. They would like get furniture and they would have it reupholstered. They did like high-end things like dressers and things like that. And I don't know where I saw it, but you know what a Formica table is?
No. Can you describe it a little bit?
It's like from the 50s, and it has like, how do I describe it? They're like old tables from the 50s, and they can be different colors. Like my grandma has one that's like yellow, and it kind of just looks like these like little paint markings, or like it's almost like washed off, and it's chrome, usually like chrome. Ooh. And then chrome legs.
Oh, I think I know which ones you're talking about.
Yeah. And so I love that look. And so I always wanted to have these tables and chairs. And so my dad got me one. So I've had this table and these chairs for maybe a little over 20 years. So he had them reupholstered to match like the table, and it's pink and gray. And so I like sitting in these chairs. Like they're pretty comfortable. They've lasted this long, and they're pretty sturdy because of the chrome. And I mean, I appreciate them because of the history and because like being able to tell that story, I guess. But
I got into going to antique shops lately, like looking for especially mid-century stuff. I like that kind of stuff as well. And I've been talking to people who run those shops, and they were telling me like, yeah, a lot of people that style, but also like the size of furniture also changes because of, like right now I was expecting he will say like, oh yeah, now we have these small apartments and people living small. And he's saying, no, it's the opposite. People who are coming here want the big stuff, people spending big bucks want to get big furniture because, have bigger living quarters. For me, it's just like almost mid-century kind of, like desk shape that I can my handrest back. Yeah. But it does need some love. The leather is going down, so I need somebody to reupholster.
I never want to be too comfortable.
Oh, come on. I want it.
Like it needs, like, that's why this is just like a regular like table and chairs like in a kitchen. Like I never want to feel too comfortable. Like I need to be like upright and like, I don't know. Like I just don't like being.
You like the pain. I guess you're masochist. Okay. No, but that's an episode of.
I don't want to get tired. Is what.
Yeah, I know. No, but that's an episode of Malcolm in the Middle that goes into the same thing you're saying, kind of. It's basically they found this couch landing on their like I don't know some accident, and there's this like bed, right? And they get I don't want to get out of this bed anymore because it was so comfy, right? And you, Luis, what is your favorite furniture, or what do you like to sit on at your place?
He's standing right now.
Yeah, right.
It's not that short.
Are you standing?
I am. I'm standing.
Are you? No, you're lying. You have that like pole thing, right?
No, I have my I'm at my standing desk right now. So and it's up. I'm standing.
Oh shit! You're not sitting down?
No, not right now.
Why?
I'm tired. Actually, I don't have any place that's really that comfortable for extended periods of time, except for the couch, But I tend to sit in a very specific spot on the couch in the living room because my dogs like to cuddle on top of me or right next to me. So, sometimes it's more about the dogs than it is about, me and my comfort. But I actually kind of like being outside. I have a little bench right in the front patio where sometimes, I'll just sit there with my coffee and if it's not too hot, it's very nice and pleasant.
That sounds nice.
Yeah. Um, Abraham always has these really random questions. So,
And
yeah.
sometimes you have to understand like how those furniture or anything in the house makes sense to the person living in the place.
Mhm.
Like sometimes you're complaining that your back and all this stuff. Now I understand why. You're giving up your comfort for dogs. I'm like, get the fuck out of the dog. You have your own bed, you have your own shit. You're good. I'm okay. So take care of yourself, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that does say something about my personality, right? Um, but it's funny that you actually bring that up, Abraham, because I was having a conversation earlier today in a meeting with someone that at some point we may end up partnering with. That's not confirmed, so I won't put it out there yet. But I was mentioning to the person that art is in everything that we do, and the design and the manufacture of even something as simple as a chair. An artist touched that. An artist's idea inspired it. And I'm kind of curious to hear from you, Carolyn. What are the things that lately have been inspiring you? We like to sometimes give little suggestions of other artists to check out, and I'm curious to hear what have you really been into lately, either in photography or music or literature, any other form of art that lately has really been like hitting in a particular way for you.
What I like to watch on YouTube, I find inspiring, is it's photo walks.
Mhm.
I like, even though like I can go
Love
on
them.
photo walk, I like to watch and listen to other people go on photo walks. And
Mhm.
there's one that's called Walkie Talkies, and it's by this photographer named Polly B. And I think he's San Francisco based, but he like hops around. I mean, I see him a lot in New York, but I have a feeling he lives in San Francisco. I could be wrong. Those are always nice because he'll just like take a photographer on a walk and he'll kind of do like a rundown of like who they are, how long they've been doing what they're doing, and like almost getting into the philosophy of photography and like what it means to them. And I just always find that inspiring for me. And then there's another one called Wrong Side of the Lens, and it's like very similar where a photographer, I forgot his name, I think it's like John or something. I will send it to you. And he'll do the same thing where he meets with a photographer and he talks about like how they started and what their philosophy is. And these aren't people that, I think there's a couple that one in particular, he's like, he's interviewed like really famous photographers. And then, but the other one, Polly B, it's like I feel like it's just normal people. Like maybe they haven't gotten their name crazy out there. They're more like known in like the inner circle of photography.
Mhm.
And it just makes me feel like, yeah, if they can do it, like I can do it. And I think it kind of helps me like think about my philosophy of photography, which like, I think I'm still trying to like nail down.
Mhm.
So yeah, I find those inspiring.
It's because you're saying, I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
Nobody's normal.
Yeah.
I'm saying you find a normal person, you have to be worried about that one.
Yeah.
And it's because you are mentioning of these photographers and Luis also as well. And this is a question I think we're all going through, What is the camera you're shooting with right now? Or do you prefer to shoot with?
I've been trying to stick to Canon cameras, and I was like, okay, why am I doing this? Because like there's so many different cameras out there, and everyone says, oh, this one's better than this one or whatever. I think it's because the first camera that I picked up where I was like taking this seriously was my mom's Canon camera.
Mhm.
I kind of feel like I have like if I were to steer away from it, then I would be like cheating on it or something. I don't know. Like there's just like something where I'm like, I need to like devote myself to this camera. Not like that one in particular, but at least this brand.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I have quite a few Canons, and most recently I purchased a Canonet um, QL17, and it's a rangefinder camera. And I'm finding those to be useful for street photography. Um, I'm like learning more about like zone focusing, and it has a very quiet shutter, so it can be just very like
Mhm.
click, and it just you kind of keep moving. Otherwise, like the SLRs are like like with and everything. So it's like
Yes.
just like a little like butterfly, like where it just like captures it. Um, so yeah, that's the camera that I've been like practicing on because like the zone focusing is something that I'm trying to get better at.
I see your Canon faithful. I
Yeah.
see. And it works. I mean, that's the things, again, when I started photography, it's everyone's talking about what camera you use, what's the best angle, what's the best zoom lenses, and all these things. But at the end of the day, is what's working best for the photographer, in
And what
terms
you're
of,
shooting, right?
yes, in terms of what you have, in terms of budget, in terms of history. Sometimes, again, like your mom had that camera, your friend gave you that camera, or what is like the things that hold you up, right? Like sometimes some cameras are good for some certain type of photography or certain types of style, right? So it just depends on that, and it's I always find fascinating. And sometimes people get into like, oh, this is a megapixels and all these things, which sometimes I do, sometimes I do, but like I know that you also shoot with film, and it's also the static of it, the aesthetics of it, how it's gonna look like, and why do I have this camera, and why, I mean, what I'm gonna do with it. So at the end of the day, all these things is just not just, oh, it's because I managed to get the best, because there's certain cameras that are like $50,000. It's like that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right?
Although
Like Luis,
I would personally like a $50,000 Hasselblad at some point, at least to mess around with, you know?
I mean, I kind of like the logic of the numbers, but at the end of the day, I feel like, do I want to shoot a $50,000 camera?
Yeah.
Because I have used those Hasselblad ones at school, and the system they have is not the best ones.
Yeah.
The results once you master could be, but at the end of the day, it's like I think it's just like overpriced. I don't need that much. It's just at the end of the day, to me, it's like, what do I get? Like, can I manage to get the story that I want into this shot? Like, people are able to get shots with their phones. Back in the day, sorry, now phones are better. But like, you had 12 megapixel
Mhm.
camera and you're still able to get a shot. It's about that. Are you able to compose a shot that's gonna call out to people? And
Mhm.
so at the end of this, what you have, and who is the person behind who's telling the story? Because again, this is the thing that we have with AI. Who is this person behind the camera? Who is this person choosing to shoot this, and for what purpose? Because AI just tells you, like, you choose all these things, but there's not a real humanity behind it. It's just like a copycat. So I feel like I want to see what Carolyn is shooting and why, like, what is she telling me this? What is she showing me this image, right? And it's that whole history behind it that attracts me.
I like that your first instinct was to stick with Canon because your mom had a Canon. I think that obviously speaks to the connection that you have to your mom and your affinity for the things that your mom had, right? Even your furniture to a certain degree. Your parents were antique dealers. Like that's pretty cool, and I appreciate the sort of parallels there. Um, just as like a fun little tidbit, my first camera that I ever bought was a Canon PowerShot G10. So it was one of the like prosumer ones that shoots in RAW and stuff. But after that, my first DSLR was actually Nikon, and I've stayed Nikon ever since. And I know Abraham is a Sony shooter, so
Well, I started with Canon because same as Carolyn, a friend told me, "Hey, I have this camera to sell." Because I was into photography before. I was just like painting and do illustrations, but I wanted to photo shoot things for references to other projects. And so I just got a point and shoot like cheap camera before. And then he told me, "I'm selling you my camera like super cheap." And so I got into that. I think it was a Canon 2 AOS or whatever thing was. And again, same thing with a lot of sounds behind the camera. But again, it had me that like starting to look into the world differently. That's what I love photography. And other mediums have the same thing, but just photography has a thing that's easy to explain. It's like you're able to see a thing in life differently because of the lens, the light, the timing, all these things, and you are like watching, like, oh, this could be that, this could be that. And so that's why I kind of got my style in photography.
yeah. And I guess sticking to the topic of photography, going through your Instagram, which is You Can't Touch This with a K, and the letter U. You have some really interesting compositions and stories that you're telling through Instagram, and I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about the ones that you have pinned on your profile, if you don't mind sharing.
I have to look at my phone. One of the pins I know is a photo of me. My friend Tisok, who was in the music video, Anything for You, by Irene Diaz. He's a photographer. And
it's pretty cool.
I'm like, how did we meet? I know he was a teaching artist at Las Fotos, but we knew each other outside of that. He was doing a photo shoot for the jewelry. I'm wearing an earring, and he just did a call out for models, and he kind of gave like a rough idea of what it would be like, semi-nude photography with a focus on like the jewelry that that he had us wearing. And that sounded like a challenge to me. And obviously, like, I'm used to being in front of the camera, like I'm not like shy. And yeah, so I just responded to him like, hey, I'm down like to be a model. And yeah. And I pinned it because I feel like it's something that's like, I don't really have a lot of photos of myself other than like me taking like mirror selfies where I'm kind of hiding. So I just kind of thought like, oh, this is like cool to show something a little different. And I wanted to pin it because like I'm proud of it. Proud that I like took on that challenge, and I'm proud of the photo. Like I think I look pretty cool. And yeah. And then the next pin is one that I did with the Los Angeles Public Library, showcasing the Octavia Lab at the Central Library. And yeah, I was just able to show one of the features that they have at the lab, which is the photography studio. So we kind of did a little mock shoot with like me and my partner Irene, and just kind of talking about like what I like about the Octavia Lab, what I like about the library, because there's many resources. Obviously, like it's a resourceful place. But obviously, like not every library has a space like the Octavia Lab. So that was like the primary focus. And I'm also proud of that I was telling Irene this, I was like, oh man, I feel like even this interview too is like, I'm not used to being like interviewed. And like, I think like, this is one of those things where I'm like calling it into my life. And I'm like, like it's kind of nerve wracking, but this is like the third interview that I've done this year. And I'm like, what's happening?
Celebrity status.
Like Irene is that person. So it's kind of like interesting to like be in that boat, I guess. So I pinned that because like, again, I'm proud of it. And obviously like I'm wanting to highlight a place that I love going to. So yeah.
Yeah.
That part of the library is pretty cool.
Yeah, and definitely shout out to our friends at the LA Public Library. We are, have been partners with them for several occasions on several different programs, including Conchas y Café, which was how you came into the DSTL Arts fam.
Yeah.
Excellent. And quick one, because you mentioned the last photos. I know you also having a 15th anniversary of that place, which is Quinceañera, right? That's the title they went for, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna promote it today, but I noticed that it sold out.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, I found out today too, because we did a walkthrough of the space, and yeah, we found out that that sold out, which is like amazing.
Yes, I'm proud of you guys and the community that has behind Las Photos. It's a pretty great space because we're talking about like different generations, and this is definitely a place where people can go and be comfortable who they are, and transmit that to the world, and the community say like, hey, we're here, this is our culture, and check us out. So Las Photos, go check it out as well. And again, sorry that sold out, I cannot like promote that one.
But they still support the space because yeah, there's plenty to support, and I'm sure that there's going to be other events happening throughout the year and beyond. I think this is just like a celebration for reaching this milestone, and I think that they have some things to announce at this event concerning the organization and like the growth that's happening. So I think it's just more to come, and it's just going to get bigger.
Yeah, so go check it out. Also, Carolyn's part of that organization. So if you see her doing anything there, go and support her. Say hi. I saw you in a podcast. I heard about you live. I know where you see it. So go and bother her. She'll be fine with it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Las Fotos Project. I'm very proud to see them doing very well, and shout out to Eric Ibarra, the founder of Las Fotos Project, who I got to meet back when he first started the organization, and gave him a chance to teach one of his very first workshops with us. So
was it about riding the T-Rex?
At my previous job. So yeah, I'm really happy to see that.
Because
awesome.
He reached out to Irene probably like when was it? Maybe 20. I'm trying to think of when the EP came out, because we were recording the first EP. So this was like 2013 or 2014, something like that. And he reached out to Irene and said like, oh, can I photograph while you're recording? And so we're like, oh, okay. And like, that's how we found out about Las Fotos, was back in like 2013-ish.
Nice, yeah.
I found out about those places because of you. Like, that's what I like, meeting new people and like new artists. Like, always fun to see what part of the community they are and who are they trying to, like either help or like empower. So I'm grateful for that.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm definitely grateful for the fact that we have you in the program, in the Poet Artist Development Program, and that we're going to be seeing your first monograph, your photo chapbook, come to fruition over the summer. So for everybody out there listening and watching, definitely stay connected with DSTL Arts. We're going to be releasing that in the upcoming months. But in addition to that, and obviously the now sold out performance with the Las Fotos Project Quinceañera event, what other things do you have coming up, and where can people stay connected with your events?
Probably the easiest place to find me is on Instagram, and my handle is You Can't Touch This, UKANTTOUCHTHIS. And that just, it's a play off of like the ukulele, because like I play the ukulele, and I was trying to find like a name that kind of like uke. That's like, I don't know, I guess I'm trying to be funny, but so yeah, that's my handle on Instagram, and that's pretty much where I post everything. And then I work with my wife, Irene Diaz, writing songs. So yeah, IreneDiazOfficial.com is where you can find my wife, and that's an extension of myself, so you can also go there.
Awesome.
Oh.
Abraham is a sap for those kinds of things. And I'm sorry?
You're not?
Oh no, I am.
Oh, you cold-blooded human lizard.
Hey. That could hurt, right? No, that's very sweet. I mean, I would probably
put him in the spot. Okay, it's all right, Luis. We know you care. You know you care.
There you go, make you blush. But yeah, I think that obviously it's amazing to see you working and appearing in other things. It's not often that our little organization DSTL Arts gets to see our arts fam doing very large things in the world, and it's really cool to have you part of our community. So I'm grateful for that. And I guess the only other thing that I have to ask you, unless Abraham has an additional question after that, but what kind of little words of wisdom do you have for any of our viewers and listeners before we sign out?
I would say to be kind, but be kind to yourself. As I think, first and foremost, whatever you're working on or working through, give yourself grace. Just believe in yourself. I think when you asked me the question about when did I first feel seen, and thinking looking at myself, I think it's important to always go inward, whether you're facing a fear or facing adversity is always going inward. So yeah, just be kind to yourself and give yourself grace.
Excellent.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that is pretty sweet.
Oh. I know Luis is not gonna feel this one, but the rest of us humans are.
I'm noticing my light so bright. I think because it got darker in the room.
I like it. You have a warm kind of vibe going on here.
I have a red light.
Yes, so it kind of works out. So my last thing I wanted to ask is oh, look at that! That view. Nice. I wanted to ask you what is how is music a thing that goes through Carolyn's life now? What's music part of Carolyn's life nowadays? What's kicking it?
I don't listen to music the same way as I used to. I think from writing to performing to learning an instrument, I feel whenever I listen to music, I'm kind of nitpicking at it, or I'm
more technical.
Yeah, I'm getting into that's the verse or that's the chorus, or I start to get into the structure of it. And sometimes I find it hard to listen to music because I'm thinking I have that
almost critiquing it.
Yeah, this way of thinking about music now is more technical. So I usually try to listen to instrumental music or music that was from long ago where I don't really have to think about it. It's okay, this is from the past, but anything that's a little newer to me. Yeah, it's more technical ears, I guess.
Yes. My friend just told me about this podcast. Sorry, I cannot mention the podcast. I have bad memory, but she sent me this podcast that breaks down songs, but I think it's 90s.
Songbuster or songs. I've heard of that, and
maybe
Trent Reznor did one, and I thought that was so cool because he broke down "Hurt," and he's one of my favorite artists, and I thought it was really cool. I really
and it goes into especially back then when you were cutting down music from previous generations, they put it in your own song, sampling, right? Mm-hmm. Which now it's kind of illegal in a way. You have to get really permission and work with it, different places to be able to get all those rights. but I like how like she'd say, oh yeah, they break it down into like this sample comes from here, the artist used it this way, and like, oh, I hear a different podcast is about the same thing, and it's the same thing you're saying. It's like now I'm breaking down music to its, to how is it make, what is working, all these little things that as a younger me, I was just like, oh, this sounds cool. This kind of gets me, but now it's more into the, like how it works, which is interesting.
I think it's the same with photography. Like you look at photos and you're not like, oh, this is such a pretty photo. You're like, okay, the lighting or like the composition of it. And you're just kind of like, I think that's why I need to go see things or watch things that maybe I have nothing to do with, to like art. Like I don't paint or anything like that. So going to art shows is fun because I'm like, okay, I can just enjoy this and not think too much about it, just about how it makes me feel.
Yes. I was just telling Luis, and I think one of the classes we made is like, I like this idea of going to a museum and watching this painting or this piece of art, and different stages of my life. It takes different meanings. First time, same thing as you were saying about music. When I was young, I was feeling like the music, it feels good, it sounds good. And the next time I came in is like the technical part of it, and then the next part of it, it became the history behind the music or the painting. It's like, what was the environment like at the time this musician or painter made this piece of art right now? So it kind of has that level. And then the last part that I'm feeling into right now is like, what is the mindset of the artist behind this piece of art? Because we have the first move or first take of it, sounds good, it looks good. Then we have the history behind it. Now, what is the artist doing with this? How is it making a thing that's connecting to me? And it just, I don't know if it's selfish of the art. Sometimes I feel like an artist has to step away and say like, let me show you what I feel. Let me show you how I process this whole experience and put it out there. And that's kind of my take on it sometimes. And sometimes all these pieces that I have seen throughout my life, and then I'm like, oh, it's just not just a singular piece of art. It has this multi-level thing. So I guess that's why I hate AI, so have that kind of, reach. And also have that history, that context, that kind of, I don't know, that blood and sweat that I like from artists, We all bleed, we are hungry, we need to pay rent, all these huge things that AI don't give a shit about.
That's the human element.
Yes, exactly. And with that being said, thank you, Carolyn, for coming with us and not being a robot. Or I don't know.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate DSTL Arts and everything that you guys do, the platform and the support that you guys give. It's it's invaluable.
Thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that. Especially just, given the current circumstances of, funding for the arts, and even DSTL Arts is, slightly precarious situation at the moment. But, this is obviously about you today, and I want to just remind everybody, go on YouTube, look up Anything for You by Irene Diaz. That's the latest music video featuring music written and co-written with you, right? There.
I didn't co-write this song, but I helped develop the music video. It was part of the production team.
There you go.
So, I didn't say just follow Carolyn and help her. Anything she's doing, go say like, go follow, go buy, go to all her events. I stand behind her.
Yeah. That's the point. Go check out the music video, Anything for You. Carolyn is obviously involved in that. Follow You Can't Touch This, UK Can't Touch This on Instagram. Make sure that you're supporting all the work that Carolyn is doing. And also, of course, follow Abraham at Abraham_photo world on Instagram. And follow at DSTL Arts on all.
Yeah, follow Luis everywhere he goes. Shopping, you know. Just
Relax.
stalk him.
Yeah.
The address is gonna appear on the screen right now. That's that.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks again, Carolyn. We really appreciate all the work that you're doing out there in the community and with us. So yeah, see y'all soon, Arts fam. Take care.